Hi, everybody. Welcome to Injury Time channel. Labor time, and time for life. As a person who studied and taught law during my life after entering college, the feeling of being prosecuted and tried is miserable. I apologize for not being thorough about myself and my family. I reflect on myself and blame myself. I am anxious and afraid because I do not know if my calling and explanation will be accepted in court. I read and write to overcome this. While writing this book, I was able to forget my worries for a while in the conversation with the authors of the law classics. Even though misfortunes continue, I endure and endure, believing Nietzsche's words, "What cannot kill you will eventually make you stronger." It is written by a person with many limitations and flaws, but I would appreciate it if you could read it. I will silently walk through the dark tunnel with a shackle around my neck. Joe Cook, A Walk Through the Law Classics, Preface. Can a person endure 15 to 16 hours of work every day? Even if he can endure, what will his life be like? It is just a machine that circulates blood, not lubricating oil, so the value of labor, and human dignity, would be nothing more than an extravagant pun. About 200 years ago, in British factories, workers worked 15 to 16 hours a day. At the time, the Factory Act prohibited youth under the age of 18 from working more than 11.5 hours. As a result, voices calling for a 10-hour workday grew louder. Regarding this, Professor of Economics at Oxford University Nassau Senior argued in 1836, when the 10-hour work system is implemented, capitalists will not have a single penny left. In other words, he said that net profit would disappear even if working hours were reduced by 1 hour. This is the famous, last an hour of seniors. In England, the working hours per day were reduced from 15 hours around 1800 to 10 hours after the Factories Act of 1848 and to 8 hours after the 1930s. Currently, the UK prohibits working more than 48 hours per week on average. The average legal working hours in EU countries is 38.6 hours, and France has a 35-hour work week. In Korea, statutory working hours of 40 hours per week plus 12 hours of overtime per week equals up to 52 hours per week. It is often referred to as the 52-hour work week. According to the last an hour of the seniors, because the working hours have decreased by 2 to 3 hours instead of 1 hour, capitalists do not profit left from it, and capitalism should have collapsed. However, capitalism is thriving instead of collapsing. Why? Professor Senior's argument was nicely refuted in Marx's Capital. The point is that the methodology itself, which divides the actual working hours of workers for the hours of preservation of fixed capital, the hours of preservation of floating capital, and the hours of net profit, is an error. In other words, since workers perform both necessary and surplus labor in the entire process of labor, even if working hours are reduced, profits continue to be produced. Peter Drucker once confessed, "There has never been an economist in history who has ever worried about what to do with his next meal." The professor belonged to the vested interests and was just a typical, expert fool, who sided with the capitalists. Essentially, labor should be an act of human self-realization. But he saw labor only as a profit-making tool for capital. This working time debate stimulates the humanistic imagination. We seek self-realization in life. Depending on the person, self-realization has different faces such as happiness, acquisition of wealth, or social success. What should not be overlooked is that the self-realization we seek is a process, not a result. If self-realization is the result, our life ends at the same time as the self-realization. We will die someday. But we do not live to die. When entering university, when getting a job, when buying a house, when achieving success at work, we all say we will live our own lives then. Employees with guaranteed retirement often say they will live their true selves after retirement. We keep pushing our own complete lives for self-realization to the future. Commuting time and working time are excluded from self-realization time, and is only the leisurely life with the evening, after work a life for self-realization. Wouldn't the time for self-realization be connected to also the time in the bathroom? Maybe our life is a time of problem-solving process. Regardless of right or wrong, life itself is made up of big and small problems that need to be solved. Once we solve these problems, we may be able to have a peaceful daily routine. However, as soon as we think we've solved them, new problems arise. If you happen to be caught up in an unfortunate situation that is difficult to handle, your existence itself becomes difficult, let alone self-realization. Nevertheless, is it impossible to maintain a sense of calm during the process of enduring and overcoming continuous misfortunes? However, it is rare for someone to have the power of the mind to allow for pain only while not losing composure. Although it may be possible in theory, it is usually beyond the reach of ordinary people. I wake up in the morning, light the fire, and wash my face with warm water. I feed the dog that runs around, and eat breakfast with kimchi stew and a bowl of rice. After sitting at my desk for 2 or 3 hours, I go out to the vegetable garden and prepare for spring planting by pulling weeds. I go out for a walk from time to time, but most of the time I go back and forth in front of my garden and desk. It is the hours of the undeserved life of mine who have little and had learned little, but are not caught up in worldly affairs. This has been columnist Cho Songwon. Thanks for watching.